Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast. I'm Janey Lee Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome. This is Janey Lee Grace with the Alcohol Free Life podcast, and just launching the Sober Club. We'll tell you a bit more about that a bit later on. So this week, depending on when you're listening to the podcast, I need to tell you about our event. So it is on Monday, 22nd of July. So if you are in London, this is going to be the last one of this series, if you like, because we did this Stay Dry till July, and it's July. And some people will have stayed dry since January. So it's just an excuse for a party, really. And so we're going to be going to have some live music, and we're going to have some alcohol-free drinks and some nibbles. We'll have some kombucha, hopefully. We've also got Sensor mocktails coming along, so there's going to be some cool drinks. I think they're going to be selling those after the main event. So bring a bit of cash if you are coming. But the event is free, and all you have to do is sign up via Eventbrite. Just type in self-care for the sober curious. So it'd be fantastic to see some of you there, as it's the last one, and make it a bit of a party, and then we'll see what happens when we kick into September. So it was my TED Talk last weekend, and I'd like to say a huge thank you to those of you who supported me. There was a couple of people came along, actually bought tickets and travelled across the country to come and see me. Thank you so much. I was just so touched. And thank you so much to everyone who watched the live stream. There was an incredible number of people watching that live stream. It was unbelievable. So I think the day as a whole was just really, really special. There were some amazing TED Talks, absolutely amazing, really, really moving stuff. And of course, you don't have time to, even if it's not a subject that you think you're interested in, you don't have time to get bored because the talks are very short. So you kind of come away feeling, really very inspired. And that's the whole TED thing, isn't it? Ideas worth sharing. So what I couldn't tell you last week, I wasn't allowed to share it, was that I was on first. No pressure, but actually it was great. So I was really nervous when you consider that I've done the amount of public speaking I've done. I've just written a blog post, actually. If you're a public speaker or an expert, I've written a blog post about my experience, giving some tips as to, tips about preparing for a presentation or a talk, and how you can rock a TED Talk. So that's on janeyleegrace.com. So have a look at that if you're a speaker or an influencer. I've just shared my experience, really, because I thought it might be helpful to some people, because I was actually surprised myself at how big a thing it was for me, even though I've done so much public speaking. In case you haven't heard the podcast before, the TED Talk that I did was called Sobriety Rocks. Who knew? And so it was, a really positive look at what it's like to be alcohol free. And hopefully I got that message across that sobriety rocks. I gave a little mention in there to Jolene Park, who was our guest last week on the podcast, and her TED Talk, Grey Area Drinking. So that got a little mention. So hopefully that will give a boost to her talk as well, which was just fantastic. And I think she's reached over 100,000 views now. Unbelievable. So it was a really, really exciting experience. The main, if you didn't catch the live stream, the main event, if you like, will be that it will be uploaded to TED.com, to the main TED site. And that happens within about a month, I'm told. So look out for that. I'll let you know when that's live. And obviously, if you can watch it and share it as much as possible, I'd really appreciate it. It'd be just amazing to get lots of views on that, because it just really continues to spread this message. And it was an interesting experience, actually, because obviously this is a very mainstream mixed audience there on the day. And I didn't know how. I mean, in a way, you're doing this for the camera, of course, for what's happening on when it goes live on TED.com. But you have, of course, also got the people in the room, and it was really interesting that in the break, a couple of quite a number of people kind of came up to me and said, "That really resonated with me, and I'd love to think more about this and have a further discussion, because what you described was absolutely where I'm at. It was absolutely me. So that's pretty cool. Even if I only managed to inspire one or two people on the day, that'll be enough. There was one woman who just said, that I really, really needed to hear that. So I just got the feeling she was probably exactly how I was, 18 months ago, kind of fully functioning, everything completely fine on the surface, but actually waking up at 3 a.m. and kind of hating myself and knowing that something had to change, but just not knowing where to start or whether life would ever be okay again. So that was great. The other really cool thing, you may have seen some of my posts on social media, was that while we were delivering our TED Talks, there was this incredible artist, Rebecca Osborne, who was standing at the side of the stage and sketching the salient points of each talk. I mean, it was unbelievable, doing kind of little caricature drawings and sentences. And it was just incredible. I couldn't believe it. I came off stage and there was this, kind of board that with all these little drawings on, and she'd picked out elements of my talk, and there's like a little drawing of the wine witch on her broomstick and, holding a glass of wine and some of the kind of references that I'd made. It was just perfect. She literally managed to nail my message in this kind of little painting or, series of drawings, if you like. And they gave this to us afterwards. So what an amazing thing to treasure. So I've put a couple of pictures of that on social media, so you might see that. That was a really incredible experience, and thank you again for all the good wishes and the good vibes and all of that. My social media, for anyone who's not up on it, is at Janey Lee Grace. You can usually find me across everything if you type in at Janey Lee Grace, or if you're on Facebook, it's at Janey Lee Grace Loves, is where I do all the kind of health and wellbeing stuff. So I've mentioned the event, I've mentioned the TED Talk. Of course, it's the Mindful Drinking Festival this weekend. If anyone's listening to this on Friday, that's in London. On Saturday, that's all organised by Club Soda. Laura from Club Soda is going to be at our event on Monday, by the way, Monday 22nd. And also, if you're in London, there's a very cool thing opening up on Tuesday the 23rd in London. It's all happening, isn't it, this month? It's actually all been organised by Sainsbury's supermarket, and it's a pop-up no and low alcohol pub. I mean, how cool is that idea? Great name. They're calling it the Clean Vic. That means a lot to a lot of Londoners. And that's going to be launching on Tuesday, I think it is. I'm not sure how long it's open for, but check it out. It's called the Clean Vic. So I'm sure you'll find info there. I'm hoping to be at that launch as well. So if you can get along to that, it'd be fantastic to meet up with you. The fact that, big major chain supermarkets are doing this kind of thing in the UK is just, it's just off the scale, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing. And, when we keep on hearing these stats, there's been all this stuff in the press this week about, they've been singling out Scotland particularly as having these, really dreadful rates of illness and linked to alcohol and drug use. And when you read those kind of reports, it's easy to feel really disheartened. You can think, oh my goodness, what we're doing is just it's not making an impact. But although it is a drop in the ocean, I get that completely. It's just baby steps. And when you get big brands like Sainsbury's kind of seeing that this trend means something, they will have invested a fair bit of dosh into doing this, and that, in my opinion, can only be absolutely amazing news, actually. So I think that's a fantastic initiative. So there's a lot going on at the moment in this scene, which feels great, doesn't it, to be part of it, really. I also had a heck of a weekend, because on the Sunday I went to the day after the TED Talk, when I'd barely come up for air. I can't tell you how exhausting it is. I was invited to the premiere of The Lion King. So that was really cool, getting to go to that in London. I took my son along, who does film studies, and we got to dress up, because only Disney would make you actually dress up in black tie for a premiere at 4:00 in the afternoon or 5:00 in central London. So that was really nice. It was fantastic to see Elton there. He looked amazing in this designer jacket. Wow. Just, really cool. Anyways, on with the podcast. This week's guest is someone that Interestingly, I haven't ever met, but I kind of feel like I ought to know him because we've both been kind of around the music industry for years and years and years. I'm sure our paths must have crossed at some point, but I don't know within which band or radio station. But anyways, Matt Black, and you can't get a better name than that, can you? Calls himself the Piano Man. And Matt, I thought would just be really interesting to get Matt's take on being sober, particularly as someone who has been in the music business, had his own story with alcohol. And is still in the music business. I can't claim that I am anymore, of course. I do a bit of singing, but I'm not steeped in it the way he is. And I thought it was interesting. I know I spoke about it on the podcast after the Rocket Man movie, that it's something that feels really important, particularly when people are creative, they're songwriters or well, any kind of creativity, really. People get really nervous that creativity is going to leave them. It's a real thing and of course it's one of the lines that Elton, one of the very profound moments in Rocket Man when he says to the Bernie Taupin character, what if I can't write any more, can't write any more songs, once I'm sober. So we discussed that in this interview. So enjoy.
It's really good to chat to you. I don't know much about your work or what you've done before, but I thought it'd be really nice to catch up. I feel sure we must have met or at least crossed paths at some point in our musical careers.
I think we know people who know people.
Yeah,
don't we?
Yeah, we do. We've got friends in common. Just tell us a bit about your kind of background then, Matt, as a musician.
Okay, yes. Basically, I started off in the entertainment world as a solo musician, playing the piano in hotels and things like that. And in true Billy Connolly style, the links got longer as I was telling jokes within the songs, and I became a comedian. And that grew and grew and grew. And on the back of that, I got an interest in recording music and started my own little recording studio for myself. But that's grown and grown as well into a commercial recording studio, and it's been going for about 10 years now. And we're hitting a lot of success. So, yeah, really looking forward. I love the entertainment business.
Yeah. And where is, and just tell us about your recording studio. Where is that?
It's based near Blandford in the centre of Dorset.
Nice.
And it was in Bournemouth. It started off in Petersfield in Hampshire. So it's moved around a bit now, but we seem to have settled in a country house in Dorset, and it's just idyllic. I'll do everything I can, not work for a living.
And so am I right in thinking then that you do a combination of playing music yourself and producing, supporting other bands?
That's right, yeah. I do a lot of my own solo gigs. I'm happy to say I've got a good reputation for live entertainment. And then at home, recording other artists or doing voiceovers and things like that, and adverts and music and everything that requires a recording studio. We handle that sort of thing.
Cool. So let's just talk about the music biz then, because obviously things have changed massively since I was in the music industry. But is it still relatively healthy out there for bands?
I think it is. It depends. In any business, you have to see the signs, and you have to look for the niches. And that could be true of any business, as I said. So, in the past, and I'm aware that, your success in the business, in the past, it was selling records was a very lucrative pastime. But not so much now. Now, most people are making, their money from either the records being played on the radio from PPO and PPRS royalties and things like that, or actual live gigs, ticket money.
Yeah,
and they're the big earners. Or obviously, what they call syncing, where you put your songs are in films and television programs and things like that.
Yeah,
that's another earner. And I think it's going to sway backwards and forwards all the time. My very personal opinion, the reason that the sales are down at the moment is that records are so easy to copy. And I think if we had a medium like vinyl back to the forefront, make a medium that people can't make at home. Then it will reboot the sales, and I think we will get back to that point. But it does swing from left and right, as anything or other things do. So we're just in that period of time where sales are low and live gigs are high. Yeah. But it's watching the signs and riding it, like a wave. Just see the wave is, ride the shape of it, and treat it like a business, and think of the finances, think what you can do, what you can't do. where you want to be. All the sort of things you would do in any other sort of business, just apply that to the music business, because it is a bona fide business. It's huge.
Yeah,
The first
absolutely.
thing people cut budgets in music so quickly, but it's the first thing that people want to do when they've got money to spend. So it's paradox in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've heard a little bit about your work. Then tell us about your drinking career.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, that's great. I've only just I've gone past 6 years where I haven't had a drink.
Wow, well done.
4th of May, I decided to stop on the 4th of May, and may the 4th be with me and all that.
So what brought you to that point then of deciding to quit it?
It's where you reach a point where you embarrass yourself. You don't like yourself to the point where you need to make a change for yourself. I think there's a period of time I do try and help as many people as I can, having done it and been there. I like to be available for people who are going through it, and everyone's got a different way of handling what they're doing. But there is one pattern that I've noticed, that when people do want to stop drinking, there's a huge pattern of swinging from on and off the drink for a period of about 5 or 6 years, where you're off for a month, and then you think, oh, got it under control, then on it again, and then you realize you haven't. And it takes you about 5 or 6 years to realize that you're never actually in control of it. And at that point, when you realize that it's the bad girlfriend, basically, or boyfriend, not to be sexual, but one way or the other, but it's the bad partner that you want, but you shouldn't have. And once you put it in a box physically and you get a handle on it, that's when you start to realize that actually stopping is for you. It's not the same for everybody. Some people can have a drink and they don't have to drink to get drunk, which is, well, in my case, that was my intention. One drink is too many and 1,000 is never enough, is the saying.
Yeah.
And so I decided, once I'd made a fool of myself once too many times, decided to grow up a bit. I actually went to a doctor and said, I can't understand why this is. I consider myself to be a relatively intelligent person, but I seem to be going around with this particular problem that I can't do anything about. And he told me to a psychiatrist, and in all true good psychiatrists, he hardly said anything. Just let me say everything. And I came to the point where I said, I think I should grow up a bit. And the psychiatrist's eyebrows raised. And that was the moment that I thought, that's it. I just got to behave like an adult. Why am I not behaving like an adult? From that point on, it was easy to qualify, and I hadn't had a drink since then. So
it's so true, isn't it? It so is a mindset. You're absolutely right. Because I was exactly the same. I couldn't understand why I was, in my case, passionate about healthy, holistic living, and this did not fit with who I was, and it really was as though something else had taken me over. I've spoken quite a lot on the podcast about hearing a voice in my head that would literally tell me to go and finish off the bottle, and it was bizarre, and I remember speaking to many therapists and doctors and saying, look, this just exactly as you described this, it doesn't fit with who I am. Why can't I get a handle on this? I don't really understand it. In my case, though, you were fortunate, because in my case I was just told by absolutely everybody, you don't seem to have a problem to me, because of course I wasn't displaying any signs of a problem. I was perfectly well.
That's another issue. It's a social thing. Everyone's got opinions about things, and I don't want to push my opinions. I'm one of these people that'd rather have opinions, and everyone can have theirs, and that's the way I like it. But I think that people make a lot of money out of the booze industry, and I think people who are making a lot of money have fingers in other pies. So socially acceptance of drinking and making it look like it's fun is part of the indoctrination that we live in.
Yeah.
So that means that most people I know, looking back on them, and I wouldn't say this to them unless they asked me what my opinion was, but most people I know have the same problem I have, but don't know it. Yeah. And I can see myself in those people. And it's just, you couldn't have told me that then either. So you have to go through that journey, that tunnel where you've got to then say to yourself, it's a good idea if I stop drinking. Yeah. It's you cannot. It's your child ego thing, isn't it? That just once you tell it, it'll go to number 5, and then that's it. You won't get any sense out of it at all. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's a psychological problem.
Yeah.
It's a mind-altering drug, which is why it tells you these things. It's more addictive than most of the drugs that they've banned. And I've never taken drugs. I'm not that sort of thing. It's weird. I'm an addictive personality, obviously, but I don't smoke, and I've never taken any other sort of drugs. But drinking,
me either.
It's like George Best on St. Patrick's Day.
Tell us about the the music biz and alcohol, and just how intertwined it is. I mean, when I think back to when I was touring, I mean, oh my goodness, I mean that was certainly if I hadn't been drinking when I started touring, I would have been by the end.
Yeah. I can understand. Can I ask how old you were when you were touring? If that's
oh well, it varies. I suppose I was in my kind of 20s and 30s. So yeah. Right. I was quite old, relatively.
well, yeah. Well, my oldest son is 24. He's got a very successful career in music, and I can see him going through the same patterns that I'm going through. But I'm not doing what everyone else did to me. I'm staying there in case things go wrong and help sort it out. Yeah. But he's aware of it. He's aware of the patterns are there, and he knows he needs to do something. But he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
And everyone's still growing up. I didn't think I actually grew up until I was 40 years old. And I think that's true for many other people. It's not, you don't grow up when you're 21. You haven't learned everything you need to learn. And it's a number they've said because that's where you can pay tax or, right? And things like that. So I think that when you're 21, 20, 30, 40, into 40s even, especially when you're a musician, there's the old adage, you never grow up when you're a musician, But when you're that age, you're still growing up. So you're going to find your feet, and letting yourself find your feet is the key to having a happy lifestyle. Not being repressive or stopping people from finding out what they want to find out, but being there as a parent figure to help if things go wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I'm sure you're right about that, but by the same token, I've also read a lot of reports that say that the younger generation, the millennials and the Gen Zers, which your son would probably fit into, are actually more conscious around drink. They're, some of them are drinking less. They practice, mindful drinking, as they call it. I mean, would you say that's? Have you seen any evidence of that? Maybe it's not the same for musos.
I have with my son. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm too old to hang out with these people, so I have no experience. But with my son, what he does actively is he'll go on a weekend and do what he's a big rocker, and he's got a reputation and an image and all the rest of that goes with it. So and he's spoken to me about it that we have actually moved to the country to stop. Or he wanted to go to, so it's not easy for him to go down to the pub or go out with all these people and do all this. So he's made steps himself, and he goes off the drink for a month, and then he'll be on it for a month, and off it for a month, and on it for a month.
Yeah.
So he actively now does everything that I was doing when I was about 35, 40.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So he is about 20 years ahead of me, or 10, 20 years ahead of me. So I feel that what you said there is true in that case. And with the limited numbers that I've got to watch, I think that's true. But I've got a stepson who's 20, and they are often, I think they drink too much, but I think that's me now being 50 and with all the dangers behind me, knowing what I'm doing. I'm much more mental than I was when I was 25.
Yeah.
And so I just take a step back and just be there if things have to work. They work out in the end. They haven't got enough money to do to drink as much as they've got.
Yeah, that's true. And just back on your story, when you, as you say, that kind of light bulb went on and the psychiatrist or whoever it was kind of raised his eyebrows and you knew right then, what kind of, what were the kind of, were there any tricky bits for you? Was it hard at the beginning? Did you sort of have to make yourself do anything or not do anything? What were the kind of, because, on this podcast, I kind of like to walk a fine line of, I want to tell people that actually sobriety is just totally rocks and it's amazing, but you do have to, you have to get to it. And there can be, depending on how much you've been drinking, even when the alcohol's physically left your system, usually after a few days, I mean, certainly for me, I didn't really quite get a grip on who I actually was for about 6 weeks. I felt really emotionally, absolutely, run through the hedge, as it were. It does odd things to you when you've been caning it for years. What was it like for you, the early weeks?
You're absolutely right. Well, what I decided to do, I've got a fairly logical brain, believe it or not, and I decided physically, if I'm going to stop drinking, then I have to physically go and buy it and physically pick it up and physically pour it down my throat. So if I physically stop myself from doing it, like actually, don't pick that up. Don't ask for that drink. If you want to, just don't. Let the moment pass. There's a lot to answer in what you just said. The hardest thing, we work in an environment where everyone's drinking all the time. And I sort of got to the point, and I've got to the point where it was like a hobby that I wanted to do right. Like a self-pride thing. So no one else is going to watch or look at the shit that you've made out of matchsticks, for example. But if you put all the detail into it, you've done it, and that's what you get out of it. It's not something you do for an audience. So this was my version of that. I wanted to do this right. I wanted to be proud of the way I did it. So and the worst part is when people, good friends of yours, try to change their lifestyle to make yours easy. You see what I mean? So if you're having a party and then someone, we're not having drinking, we're not drinking tonight, and you realise they're not drinking so that you don't feel like you're having a drink, right? But that's worse. That's another problem. That's a whole worse thing. So you get to the point where you're just honest with people, and you say, the first thing was when I decided that you can't broadcast it to everybody because then no one listens to you. So if anyone was going to buy me a drink, the first thing, I made up a story about a medical condition that I cannot have a drink. I can't have a drink tonight. I've got a medical condition. People don't often ask about that. So that was quite a quick dispersive method of not getting one bought for you. So that's that thing. When you came to, finding yourself, what I realized was the alcohol was telling me that it was making me the fun person, right? I didn't realize that was happening in the first place. So the alcohol was telling me that it was making me the fun person at the party.
Yeah.
That's what my brain was saying.
Yeah.
Me, right?
Yeah.
And one common thing that I get from people who want to stop, their biggest fear at that time is that they think they're never going to have any fun again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's verbatim. Yeah,
opposite. The anagram of sober is bores, of course.
Oh yeah,
and none of us are.
No, but the thing is, once you remove, and it keeps you in a prison. If you're in the alcohol bubble, let's say, then you can't go anywhere. So you create much like Facebook or social media. You create your life within that bubble, and that becomes your 100%. But when you remove the alcohol, you realize your 100% is a small percentage of what's actually there. Yeah. You don't notice it when you're drinking. You can say it until you're blue in the face to people, but that's absolutely true. And once you've got 6 months behind you, you suddenly find you haven't got enough time in the day to do all the things you're doing, and you haven't been to the pub. You've got a full 3-dimensional life, whereas before it was 2-dimensional, but you didn't notice that because you're living in those 2 dimensions.
So
and that's the difference. That is the difference. All you have to do is to stop, because you then notice everything else that it stops you from noticing, and you start to really, life is much, much more fulfilling without any added substances.
What about? I mean, you're absolutely right, and I think it's a time when so many people actually, as you say, discover you've got more time on your hands. So, sometimes people decide they want a whole new career, or they want to move house or whatever it is. All sorts of things, things burgeon and come to the fore once you can finally ditch the booze. But in your case, and other people perhaps in the same field, what about the creativity? Because this is another thing that I've heard people say. They're writers or musicians will sort of be fearful that it was the booze that helped them be creative. So they're fearful that when they stop the booze, they'll never be able to write another song.
I have to be honest with you. I think there is an element that is the case. I think that sometimes having a substance that makes you think differently to what you normally do takes you into the mistake area where a lot of things get written.
Right.
As a songwriter myself in the studio, or co-songwriter mostly, I often do see that inspiration comes from what you wouldn't have done, as opposed to what you think you would have done, rather than thinking about it. Okay, so in that case, when you're out of control, in anything put out of control, I can see where you would have a problem. Not have a problem, it would be a case where yes, I've come up with a good idea that I wouldn't have thought of if I was thinking straight. But that's going to exist. Okay, I think what that gives you in that situation, it takes away with one, remembering what that the thing was that you
yeah, you had a great idea, but you instantly forget it.
Exactly, and you never really get to that point. And two, it's just it takes other things out. It takes other things away from the wholesomeness of that idea. So the actual end result to me is always not have a drink anyway. The other thing is finding other ways to get to those places. So which you can do, and you can think creatively. You can dream. People dream. I dream a lot more now that I'm not drinking.
Well, you probably dream the same, but the difference is you might remember them.
Yeah, that's the case. But I mean, the actual quality of the dreams or the content of the dreams is much more psychedelic now, and much more completely. It's an amazing thing what the human brain is, and how could I imagine those things that are in that, all those faces and people that I've never seen before? How can your brain just conjure all that up? And I think it isn't addled by anything else. You leave your brain to be clear, and it works at 100%. And I love that about not drinking. And it's creativity is a difficult thing. Part of being creative, you've got that mental attitude where you want to be free, you want to go against the institution, or you want to feel like you are independent or isolated even sometimes. And these substances that are around do create that sort of feeling, but when you've come off them, and you have to come off to realize this, you get all of that creativity, but then you get your clear thinking that helps that creativity actually work for you in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can put together something with it that then makes that creativity something that's tangible.
Yeah. So what is it? Yeah, that's great. I mean, what is it like for you now then? Still in the music scene. Obviously the one who doesn't drink. Are you kind of known as Matt who doesn't drink? Is it still a thing, or is it not? Is it not a thing anymore after all these years?
Well, I'm well known. People call me now if they're having a problem. So it's obviously
that's great.
I think it's great. And I know Billy Connolly did it years ago. He went off the drink, and then he did a couple of adverts for alcohol-free beer, I think, as well.
Did he?
And I remember thinking, how's he going to do that? Because the other thing, I didn't think I was going to be funny as a comedian. I didn't think I was going to be funny, and after a couple of gigs, I realised I was. Okay, but it's just not what I remembered. When you've had a few to drink and you're being funny, you're going with the grain a lot more, and then you're laughing more. You get all those endorphins running through you, so it's much more of a reactive existence. When you're sober and you're making people laugh, you're watching them laugh, and then you're getting a much more definite return on what's happening to you and to them. So you're much more aware of what's going on around you. You're not much more out of control, and that's the difference. But many people, and this is where it's different, my profession as a comedian has gone up and up and up and up since I stopped drinking, as opposed to when I was drinking, it was stuck on that level. It was good where it was. As I said, it was my 100%. That was my whole world. But now it's gone through barriers that I didn't know were there because I'm not drinking. The other thing that's helped as well is that, it's with personal relationships. One of the things I found myself I was a horrible person when I was drunk, and I couldn't believe it because I couldn't remember that, but I couldn't believe the things that they said I'd say.
Really?
I was completely in denial about it. Yeah.
Really? Did you ever have blackouts? Did you ever have blackouts, or was it just that you said stuff that you didn't remember the next day?
I don't think I had blackouts. I think I fall asleep quite easily anywhere.
Yeah.
So that could be a blackout. But no, it was. I didn't have blackouts. I couldn't remember a lot of things, and maybe my brain just decided not to remember them because they were embarrassing. You know, I don't know if there's self defense mechanism there, but then I decided to divorce that part of my character.
Yeah.
I started to realize there's a big analogy between the book Jekyll and Hyde and an alcoholic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I thought, I wondered whether that was something that he'd written about as a way of putting it over, because it is like that. It brings out this person who is horrible, and you cannot believe that person's there inside you. You really, I could not really believe. I know I can be a nasty. Everybody can be if they really want to be. They could be a horrible person. But the things I was doing to the people I loved was absolutely thoughtless, and I couldn't absolutely not understand that at all.
Yeah.
So So to stop drinking was divorcing that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not let him rear his ugly head. Yeah. So that's where it was important to me, you know.
Wow. So would you have any, kind of tips for people then who are maybe, kind of at the beginning of this? I mean, did you have times when you thought, oh, sod it, I'm just gonna go back to drinking?
I still do. I think probably on a weekly basis, but I think the urge goes quicker. When you first start to not drink, it takes maybe half a day to get that urge away. But then give it 6 months, it'll take a minute for it to go. When you've got the urge to drink, it feels like you're going to have that urge for months.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's going to go anywhere. So you feel like you're going to be depressed about it for ages. But the reality is it only lasts minutes. And then once you get into it, after a year, it was literally a millisecond. If someone opens a glass of wine in front of me, I'll always feel like I want a glass of wine. I'll always will. But now that is a similar thing to me as walking out in front of a bus.
Yeah.
That would ruin the life that I have now.
Yeah.
So it's in that place now. I'm thinking that place. So even if someone told me and I believed them and it was true that I could have a drink and nothing would happen and everything would be fine, I'd actually prefer not to have a drink now.
Yeah.
I just prefer to have something I really like the taste of and that's it. I don't care what's... and I'm actually in that place where that's true.
That's
so
right.
To do it for other people who are starting, you've got to first believe when someone has gone through it, they tell you that life is better afterwards.
Yeah.
Believe that 1,000,000%.
Absolutely.
Okay. Second thing is find out the positives in being strong because you feel proud of yourself after you've done it.
Definitely.
If someone offers you a drink, you say you've got a lot of pride, you feel great. And that's better than a bottle of vodka. That's better and a lot cheaper than a bottle of vodka. So you do that. All the money that you save, you're in your pocket, you can go and do the things you want to do. All of that is 1,000,000 times better than going down the pub and drinking it.
Yeah. And what about support, Matt? Because, a lot of people that, listen to this podcast, they've got maybe they're part of an online community or whatever it is. And I think certainly at the beginning, actually getting some kind of support from like-minded people is really important. What did you do for your support at the beginning?
It did. I went to AA.
Oh, you did?
I did go to those meetings, and I thought I wanted to drink more after the meetings. The other thing that I didn't really identify with, and it's a personal thing, is I'm not a religious person. And they base a lot of things on God as the higher power, etc., etc. And I couldn't relate to that. A friend of mine had a cocaine problem, and he was very helpful in helping me to stop drinking. It's ever so strange where the help comes from. But he went to CA, which is Cocaine Anonymous, and he went to that, and NA as well, Narcotics Anonymous. Doesn't matter what you're addicted to, though. Food, could be anything. And on the NA, they use less of the religious connotations. Yeah. So it's whatever your higher power is, that's where you're answering to. So that was helpful, and I found those better meetings because they're tailored. Everyone's different. They're tailored to different people. But still, I felt there was a lot of negativity in those meetings, and I felt I wasn't getting much from it. In the end, it was stand on my own 2 feet, take the equation right back down to basic level. Yeah. Physically drink an alcoholic drink. If my brain's telling me to do it, then that's the bad girlfriend telling you to do something you shouldn't do. The one you should never go back to. So I physically didn't order a drink. People asked me, I physically said, no, I do not want that drink. I've got a medical condition. It's an easy thing to say, actually, is just to divert it that way and get it out of the way. I've got doctor says I can't have a drink. Sorry, no. And that's the thing to do. Just do it. And then after a week, you'll see the difference. It doesn't take 6 months. But after 6 months, you really see the difference. Yeah. And then after the year, you've cracked it. Yeah. There are people out there after 24 years have hit what they call the panic button and gone back to it. And it's a depressing thought to think you've done that 24 years and you feel good about yourself and then done that. But then they're back on it again. And people I've known have done the same sort of thing over a year or something like that. And they started again. I said, well, you haven't gone back to square one. You've got a year or a year and a half behind you. Yeah. And you know what you can do. Yeah. And you've just gone back a step. Yeah. You're in the same place. The things that you've learned now are helping you through this next bit.
Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it, not to beat yourself up. I think we don't we don't do this kind of total thing in any other area of life. If you go on a diet or whatever, and then you end up having a biscuit, you don't sort of say, right, that's it. I'm never going to bother again. We just go, all right, pick ourselves up. So, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think what's interesting is, the path that you chose. I think perhaps things have changed even in the sort of 6 years since you stopped. Is that, now I'm sure you've noticed there are more and more communities coming on board, and this theory that the opposite of addiction is connection, and there are now some fantastic online communities. There are certainly in London there are some fantastic meetups. I do a monthly thing. There are
right.
dry bars. There's meetups for whatever age you are. There are some millennials who do sober millennial gatherings. So it's actually super exciting now for somebody. There is lots more available. You really don't have to feel like you're on your own. So I suppose that's some really good news.
I mean, but even if there's just one person that's on the end of the phone, that's all you'll need to know that's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just pick a couple of people that you're having this problem, and you will just want, I feel like I'm going to have a drink, and a true friend wouldn't mind you calling in the middle of the night. My son said that to me once. He said, I really appreciate it. It was at my birthday. It was on my 50th birthday a couple of years ago. And he did a spot on the piano, and he did this whole speech about, I could phone up Dad, and then 4 o'clock in the morning, and he'd come and get me. He said, I don't know any other parents that do that. He said, but that's the person. You're going to be there. You want to be there. It makes you feel.
That's the person you want to be. I know. One of the. I mean, there's a lot of firsts, isn't there? After you give up, the first party you go to, the first, I don't know, wedding you attend, your first birthday, all of this stuff that you have after you get sober, all these new experiences, the first time you go on holiday. For me, one of the most memorable firsts was when I got a call from my teenage son to say, I really need a lift. And it wasn't that late, but it was, I don't know, midnight or something. And I got in the car and picked him up. And it's like, that's like nothing. But for me, I've never been able to do that. I could never have contemplated it, And I felt so pleased with myself. It's funny, isn't it?
My first, when someone didn't ask me if I wanted a drink.
Yeah, that's good.
That was like doing a gig, and then someone didn't buy me a drink.
Yeah.
It used to be there was a bottle of tequila glasses lined across the top of the piano.
Yeah.
And they'd do that, and that would be every time. But now people know, and he said, "Well, I'll give them away. If someone they haven't seen me for 10 years, which can happen, they'll just buy a tequila and they put it on top." I was actually with George Best when that happened to him.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, when someone sent a drink over, and he went off. And with the drink in his hand, came back with an empty glass. And I chatted to him afterwards. I said, what happened? He said, behind the cigarette machine, there was 10 white wine spritzers full, all hidden behind the cigarette machine. He said he just went and got an empty glass and then came back. So the guy thinks he's drunk it. He hasn't personally thought he's done it. And then he's okay, so it's your own self-pride is what's going to get you through it. And the more you do it right, and the more you've got that positive spin on this, because if you treat it like a game and you just want to do the game well, that's a positive thing. That's your silver lining to the whole cloud. Because if you think about the negativity of it, you can get embroiled in that a little bit too much. But there's a silver lining to this, that you're learning to be yourself again, and that's the positive. So
absolutely.
that's what gets you through it, and that's what keeps you it.
Yeah.
I'll never not want another drink. I'll always want to have a drink.
Will you? I find that interesting. You see, because I think I'm right in saying I actually don't want. I actually really don't. So that's an interesting one.
I don't want a drink. Let me put it another way. I'll always have the urge to have a drink, but I don't want that drink.
I think isn't it more? I wonder about this because so much of it is the association, isn't it? Because if you're on your own and and you're miserable, and there's the opportunity of a really nasty cheap wine in a plastic cup. You probably wouldn't want that. It's the association, isn't it? It's the lovely sunny day and the beautiful glass and everybody else and the perceived elegance of it all. But actually, it's all an illusion. Exactly, because that's what it is. But that's what it is largely, isn't it? It's largely the illusion. It's not really the alcohol you want, is it? Or is it?
No, I think the the alcohol then intervenes and tells you that that's what you want.
Absolutely, but that's what I mean. It's an illusion, isn't it? You don't really want the alcohol. I mean, pure alcohol would just make you ill anyway.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I'm only kind of. Sorry, carry on.
It's a mind-altering drug, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's It's going to be that. Yeah. It's. I mean, there's a combination of factors there. Social drinkers are very close to stage 1 alcoholics, periodical alcoholics. Where, I mean, that's what we just found out I was. There's 4 stages apparently, and periodical alcoholic is someone who won't touch alcohol at home, doesn't want one, but when you're socially drinking, you'll have one, and then the floodgates open.
Yeah, of course.
Then your whole your priorities are all wrong at that point, and then you'll just want to get drunk. So that was me, and so, but I think a lot of people call it binge drinking or social drinking. And they'll do it after work. They'll go for a drink, and if they don't, they'll feel like they're missing out. So at that point, I think there's an addiction in place, and so it's a multiple problem.
It is. Yeah. Well, it's fascinating to chat to you, Matt. It's great to get all these different insights on it, and I'm really pleased you're so happy now, and as you see that this fabulous silver lining. Tell us a bit about the work that you've got going on right now, then, and where people can find out more about the work you do.
Okay. Well, if the web page I've got, Matt Black, I always say put Piano Man after Matt Black into Google. Otherwise, all you'll find is pots of paint. My company, is called Hangover Hill Limited, which is named after the journey.
Great.
And it's a great little tune. That's what the name of the studio is. And we do a lot of things. Part of what we do is recording, obviously you've heard about, and the gigs. But we've, myself and my fiance, who's my PA, Mel, we organise events for local acts that we think should be on better stages than they're playing at the time.
That's great. What, across any genre, or? Yeah,
any genre at all.
Oh, wow.
It's local to Dorset at the moment because we've got the support of an incredible venue called Lighthouse in Poole.
Great.
And they've offered us this. It's a prestigious stage that you wouldn't get on it unless you spent £1,000 a night on hiring it. And so we are able to use this once a month and put the people we think on.
Yeah.
And that without their help, it wouldn't happen. But and also their marketing engine means that we get a huge audience that actually listens to all these original artists, their original songs.
That's great.
And people are now they're really listening to songs they don't need to know to get what they want out of it, you know. And the people are getting that original music is huge now around this area. So that's what we do on the first Wednesday of every month. And as I said, we update our social pages very often to let people know who's on and what's happening. So
and that's under the name of Hangover Hill.
Hangover, if you look for Hangover Hill,
yeah.
And then it'll take you to all the different things that we're doing from that point.
Cool, great. Right. Well, it's fantastic to connect. If you ever need a session singer, you know where I am. You can get me out of retirement.
Well, I would absolutely love that. I remember we have a good friend Barry who said,
Barry.
Great. Yeah. But you know, if you ever endorse it, please do give us a buzz.
I will. Fantastic. It's great to talk to you, Matt. I really appreciate it. And we'll get together at some point. All the best.
It's my pleasure, Janey. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
So thank you, Matt. And a reminder then about the Sober Club. So I mentioned this last week, and this really is new. It's just at waiting list stage. But if you come on board now, then you're going to be right involved from the beginning. And once we open up properly, we'll be inviting you to join properly, if you like, at the cheapest rate it will ever be. And then when it's all singing, all dancing, and other people are paying more, you'll still be paying a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. So obviously, I'd love you to sign up for the waiting list. No obligation, of course, but just go to thesoberclub.com, thesoberclub.com. It looks a bit weird because it's not a proper website at the moment. It's literally what we call a landing page. So you literally just give us your email address. You get a little PDF of self-care tips in sobriety. And then we'll sign you up to the list, and then you'll be the very first to hear when we launch properly, which is going to be in about 3 weeks' time, we think, probably. I'll probably invite you to a closed Facebook group before that, if you want to be part of that. And And really, what's really important to stress with the Sober Club is that I'm not trying to step on the toes of any of the people who are already doing the fantastic challenges that are out there. There's lots of great people doing this stuff, and I get that completely. I really wanted to launch this because I wanted to go really in depth to the other stuff, to what happens after. So we will absolutely have a jump start, for people who are right at the beginning. But we will also have lots and lots and lots of ongoing expertise and inspiration in there for people who've been sober for, 3 months or for a year or for 2 years. Because my real big thing, as hopefully you know by now, is about this whole positivity around once you've chosen this life and continuing with this positivity and motivation. And what I've found with so many people is that once they take this step, once they decide to ditch the booze or get their drinking completely under control, if they decide to be a mindful drinker, over time, it changes everything else in their life. And I wonder whether this is true for absolutely everyone. I bet it is. Once you do that bit, you start to care about other aspects of health and well-being. You just do. People start to be interested in healthy eating and mindfulness and drinking more water and trying out yoga, and often people find a whole new purpose in their life and decide that they want to start a business or form a charity or write a book or travel the world or whatever it might be. And it's all of those elements that I want to bring in over time. Obviously not all at once. We can't, no one can do everything at once. But the great thing is I do have access to some fantastic experts. And that's what I really want to do. I want to bring together like-minded people. So we've got that thing in common. That might be all we have in common. It's going to be people from all over the world. And maybe the only thing we have in common is that we're either trying to give up the booze or we have given up the booze. But from then on in, it's that positivity of holistic living, really, health and well-being, mindset, and finding your purpose. So it really is everything over time. And I hope to be able to bring you some amazing experts. I do know for certain that right from the off, I have got some amazing content for people who sign up right at the beginning from William Porter, author of Alcohol Explained. So that's going to be fantastic. So this is going to be exclusive stuff that you won't get anywhere else. So I know for a fact that we've got William on board, and that's amazing news. We're also going to have lots of expertise around nutrition and healthy eating, and also how you can actually lose weight in a proper healthy way. Because I know that's an issue for a lot of people. And we do often say on the podcast, listen, if you're trying to lose weight, don't panic about that right at the beginning, because that may not happen right at the beginning. You've heard me say before, I fully expected to lose, at least a stone in the first 3 weeks. And you're joking, it was nothing like that. It was much more of a slow burn for me. And also I got a bit of a sugar head on at the beginning, which again is another thing we're going to address. But weight loss or weight management is a thing for a lot of people, and we're going to look at it really in depth and look at it from a proper balanced perspective, if you like. So I've got a few really incredible nutritionists and weight management people kind of lined up who are going to do this in a very holistic way. So there's going to be, stuff there for everybody, whether you want to focus on the physical aspects of health and well-being or the spiritual and emotional aspects. And of course, everything swings in together anyway. So it'll be fantastic if you want to join us at this stage. As I say, just email address on the waiting list, thesoberclub.com, and we will be in touch as soon as possible. Thank you again to everyone who supported me on the TED Talk. Still can't stop thinking about it. It's such a thing. And I'll see some of you on Monday 22nd at the Jago in Dalston, the Eventbrite. Tickets to sign up, it's free. You need to type self-care for the sober curious. And then I might see some of you at the Mindful Drinking Festival and some of you at the Clean Vic, which is the pop-up Sainsbury's alcohol-free bar on Tuesday in London. So that's quite a bit of stuff in there. I hope you enjoyed the interview today. Oh, I haven't given you a self-care tip, have I? My head is full of this stuff at the moment, so much so that it's hard to pick out one tip really this week. So I'm just going to say, here's my self-care tip this week, and that is you choose one thing that works for you. And I can't prescribe it. I can't tell you what it is, but I'll throw a few suggestions at you, and you choose one thing that you decide you're going to do before this time next week, whenever you listen to this, and make a note of it and write that down and make that decision. The reason I'm saying that is because if I say, okay, here's your self-care tip, go and do a dance class, I really get that that's not for everyone. I really do understand that this is one of the things we're going to try and do with the club is really provide so much inspiration and encouragement, but accept that we're all completely different. And, a dance class, yoga, it doesn't rock everybody's boat. So I just want you to ask yourself, what does do it for you? What can you do that takes no more than an hour of your time between now and the same time next week that you actually enjoy, that you know is physically good for you, okay? So that rules out drinking, all right? You absolutely know that it's good for you physically and emotionally. And I mean, clearly that's a wide berth. For me, it would be going and doing a dance class or a yoga class or a walk by the sea. And I will absolutely do at least one of those things, if not both of those things, all three things, if I'm really lucky, before this time next week. But for you, it might be completely different. It might be going for a bike ride. It might be going for a walk. It might be having a really long bath or treating yourself to a massage. It might be, rowing. It might be playing a board game. It might be just taking time out and reading a book. But whatever it is, actually diarise it. Actually put it in your diary. Make it last preferably an hour or just under an hour, and do it before this time next week. Okay. And then you've created your own little resource. These are your sober power tools, these little resources that that at the end of that time, you've given that time for yourself and you feel better because of it. If you're in the early stages and you're trying to give up the booze, set that thing for the time when the cravings are going to come in. So if the wine which arrives on your shoulder at 6 p.m, then book yourself a class or arrange to meet someone for coffee at that time, or plan someone that you're going to go for a walk with so that you can't let them down, or get in the bath and soak for however long it takes, because let's face it, you can't reach for a drink when you're in the bath or wearing your pajamas. And above all, be kind to yourself, and I will see you same time next week, if not before. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast with Janey Lee Grace. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, rate us, share on social media, and tune in again.